let's go to the first initial college football playoff rankings. We'll start off, although, with the teams before. This is a college football playoff right now. With obviously number 1 is Oregon, and then at number 2 is Georgia. And actually, Dawn, number 2 in the ranking was Ohio State. But because I want to remind people, with the way it's set up, the 4 highest ranked conference champions get the top 4 seeds. So even though Georgia's number 3 overall, they actually get the number 2 seed because Ohio State is obviously in the same conference as Oregon. So Oregon's number 1, Georgia's number 2 in the standing in the college football playoff, but actually number 2 Ohio State, number 3 Georgia, number 4 is Miami, which is why they're number 3 right there, and then number 5 is Texas, who ends up getting the number 6 seed. Number 6 is Penn State, who ends up getting the 7 seed. Number 7 is Tennessee, who gets the 8 seed, and number 8 is Indiana, who gets the 9 seed, and then finally BYU, who's the 4 seed, actually ends up getting is number 9 in the country. So they get the 4 seed because they're in the Big 12. They're the highest ranked Big 12 team. We'll get into that in just a second. Notre Dame at number 10. Then you got Alabama at number 11. Boise State at number 12. And the first 2 out were SMU at 13. Texas A&M at 14. And then I'll get into the other ones pretty quickly too, just to look over at the rest of it. LSU's number 15, Ole Miss is number 16, Iowa State's number 17, Pittsburgh's number 18, Kansas State's number 19, Colorado's number 20, Washington State's number 21, Louisville's number 22, Clemson's number 23, Missouri's number 24, and Army rounds it out at number 25. So I know the bracket is very complicated because of all the seeding and all that, so even though the rankings are not exactly the top 12 seeds as well. But Dolan, what stands out to you in the first college football playoff ranking?
I think that bracket is almost exactly what we had on Sunday.
That's what I had, yeah.
I think the only thing, we might have had Indiana and Tennessee flip, but I think if you look at the bracket that you made on Sunday, I think that's just about the same.
This is actually Indiana's a 9, so yes, it is flipped. Indiana would host Tennessee.
That's the only bit that's flipped there. But I mean,
they watch the show. The playoff committee watches the show.
Clearly, we do something right around here. No, I was looking at that. I was like, that looks familiar. I was worried that was our graphic, but
yeah.
No. I think honestly they got it right. I think the biggest debate for me would be SMU and Alabama. We talked about this on Sunday when we went over this for that last spot. But I get the logic for Alabama, right? SMU, they do have the one loss. It is to BYU. They don't play the schedule Alabama plays. I think there is still a ton of opportunity for SMU, even if they were to make the ACC title game and lose to Miami. I think they'd have an extremely, really good case at 11-2 at that point to make the playoff. I think SMU's a terrific football team. Find it interesting that we have A&M even off of the loss to South Carolina ahead of LSU. Obviously they beat LSU, so maybe they feel a little bit obligated to put them ahead. And then some of these teams on the back end of it too, I look at like some of the thoughts we've been having about teams like Clemson and Missouri, where I go, oh, okay, I think this is confirmation for me. They have to win the conference. I don't think Clemson on the rest of their schedule, if they can't win the ACC, I don't think a 10-2 Clemson with the schedule they have and no big wins, I don't think they would get an at-large. So I also, is Colorado at 20?
Yeah.
I didn't think they would put them that high. I thought they might honestly be 24, 25. I
had them 25, yeah.
You had them 25. Colorado at 20, Kansas State at 19. I'm telling you, the Big 12 is going to be a fun race. You got all those teams. I'm with you, not a huge fan of BYU at 9.
I hate that. Hate it.
I think you could argue them up to 6.
Yeah, I had them 6.
I think you could have them 6 or even 7. I could tolerate 7 because Tennessee, who do they lose to again?
They lost to Arkansas.
Oh, that's right, the close game at the end. You could argue with me about 10. Actually, I would have BYU ahead of Indiana also.
So would I.
I like BYU's wins. I love Indiana. I love how they're dominating. But BYU being at 9, that feels a couple spots below. But I can't hate the rest of this. Like in BYU, they still end up with the 4 with the conference thing. The 2-3 argument between Ohio State and Georgia is fun. I could see it either way. And actually, at the end of the day, I really like.
Doesn't even matter at the end of the day either, really, right? 2 and 3, like
you're right. You're right. It wouldn't matter. You're right, because Ohio State would be the 5 regardless. So it's kind of weird how the seeding can mess with it a little bit. But I think that's the one thing within the top 12 for me. I really like that top 12. I would just have BYU a couple spots higher in that ranking.
Yeah, I think I have more issue. I have obviously no issues really with the actual bracket because that's exactly what I had. Besides the fact that Indiana and Tennessee are swapped, and Indiana would host the game against Tennessee. But it's the ranking itself that I have some issues with, like BYU being at 9. It's like, what else do they need to do, man? They're undefeated. They killed Kansas State.
Well, and if you're putting SMU at 13,
they beat SMU.
They're the only team that's beaten SMU. No, BYU is not getting enough credit. So I mean, this is the thing. They beat the number 13 team in the country.
Yep.
They beat the number 19 team in the country by 30.
Yep.
They're going to play Iowa State later in the year, and they're undefeated. I mean, no, I think BYU certainly should be ahead of Indiana.
We'll probably play Iowa State.
Certainly should be ahead of Penn State. Absolutely should be ahead of Penn State. But those two teams, you could argue with me about Tennessee, but I could argue Tennessee beat Bama. Okay, that's, yeah. And they lost to Arkansas, which Arkansas is not that bad. I mean, they're not as bad as we thought they'd be coming in. You could argue with me, but I think BYU should be either 6 or 7. That's the only thing I have in the top 12. I think the 12 are correct. I think there's an argument for SMU, and the rest after that is kind of eyeing it. And I think also it speaks to with LSU and Ole Miss, they don't win these games this week, they're done.
Yeah.
They're not, because they're going to be sitting in the 20s the rest of the year.
I even think, like I said, I think Alabama as well. I really struggle to see Alabama with their schedule. They got the rest of the season. I don't know how they get back.
Wins over Oklahoma and Auburn would not. I think those are the two that they played. That wouldn't do it. They wouldn't pick
more. What's the other one?
I think it's a freebie.
It's Mercer.
It's an FCS game.
Well, yeah, Mercer. Yeah, maybe they'll boost him back.
Actually, I cannot confirm that Mercer's a house.
The Mercer Bears. Yeah.
But I'm with you. I don't think LSU or Alabama. I don't think with the rest of the schedules they could recover from a loss. And Ole Miss at 10. I think you're seeing very clearly the teams at 10-2 that would have, or even 9-3, obviously would have a huge problem. And I'm with you. We've been saying this all along, and I know the only 3-loss team here is Louisville coming off the Clemson win. I don't know that there's any chance a 3-loss team is getting in.
No,
I don't see any chance at that.
I don't think so either. I want to shout out one school that is not in the top 25 that I had in my top 25. I believe pretty much everyone else in the top 25 I also had in my top 25, but I subbed out Clemson. I don't have Clemson in my top 25 anymore because Clemson obviously only 2 losses, but only 2 times they played like competent teams, they got destroyed, right? So the one school I did have in my top 25 was South Carolina. I had them at 22. Yes, 3 losses on the year, but they played close in basically all those games, and they have some big wins as well, obviously just killing Texas A&M this past week. I think South Carolina's getting slept on. If you put Louisville with 3 losses in the top 25, I think what South Carolina's done this year is more impressive than what Louisville's done.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think South Carolina, boy, how different would this season look if they had pulled upsets over LSU and Bama?
God.
I mean, they got some 1-score losses in there. I'm with you. I don't see Clemson, Missouri too. I mean, they're 6-2, and there's not a whole lot of other options when we're kind of picking a fight with that. But I also wonder too about Army and how high
25 is low.
How high would they get up there if they were to beat Notre Dame?
Oh yeah, pretty high.
I mean, and in North Texas, they're playing North Texas this week. Not an easy game by any means. North Texas is a high flying offense. If we get to a scenario here with Army where they run the table, it's going to be. I still think it's going to be a lot of fun. 25 might even be a little low for me, honestly.
I think that's the biggest difference when you look at just the AP poll compared to the college football playoff rankings. Because Army is 18 in the AP poll, and they're 25. That's a 7-spot difference.
There's a strength of schedule a bit there because they haven't. I get that they haven't played the toughest schedule. I don't know. Is there a Power 5 win on their schedule right now?
I don't think so.
Is their whole season just going to come down to the Notre Dame game? Is that
really?
Okay.
I mean, listen, I had Army lower than 18 as well. I had them 21, but even then, it's like.
Yeah.
So I think 25 is a little low for the Black Knights, but obviously they got some big games left for the rest of the season, so we'll see what happens there. But yeah, South Carolina should be in the top 25. They're not in either the AP poll or college football playoff rankings, so it'd be interesting to see. Listen, it's still a long way to go. I know a lot of people are saying, "Oh, these rankings don't matter." They do matter though, because you look at this right now and you're saying, "Okay, this is what they think of these teams." It's important to see what they think of
I think again though, I think the top 12, I would maybe tweak the order on 1 or 2 teams, but I think this top 12 is actually I think that's about as right as they could do starting out.
Yeah, again, the order of the actual ranking I think it has a lot more arguments, but I think the 12 that are in the bracket, I have very little issues with them. So good initial ranking. We'll see what happens in the rest of the year. We'll see if we have like a Florida State type deal where someone gets left out and they do not get left.
Who's the one team for you, whether it's this week or moving forward, outside of the top 12? that you're really, really closely looking at, 13 to 25? If you had to pick one team, you go, that's the team I might vouch for right now.
To get into the top 12?
Either like not right this minute, but like you think could really be dangerous as far as moving their way up.
I really think – I just think SMU is going to keep winning. And then it gets to the point where you play Miami in the title game, and
you kind of maybe see how close they keep it.
Yeah, I mean, SMU, like, listen, we're going to get chaos over the next few weeks of the season with all these teams. They're going to lose. And SMU, because of that, is going to keep moving up. SMU plays Boston College, Virginia, and Cal the rest of the year, which is like, okay, those are all three, like, decent teams, but they should win all three of those games. They're probably going to finish the season at 11-1, and 11-1, I could tell you, is going to be higher in before conference title weekend than what are they right now? 13. Yeah. So that's a team that's just going to keep moving up. I think
they finish 11-1, and they go to play, let's say, Miami in the ACC title. They'll probably walk into that game about number 7 or so.
Yeah, and then it gets to the conversation of even if they lose to Miami, do they still get in?
Oh, that'll be an argument.
That's going to be really.
I think it's going to depend how close they play.
Yeah,
because Miami's an absolute wagon.
Yeah, so we'll see. And obviously, watch out for Colorado at 20.
I was just going to say
they keep going.
If they win this week, this gets real.
Yeah,
and I'm telling you, their last 3 games, I would favor them pretty clearly. This week is the one going down to Lubbock, and I think they've given them some pretty solid respect when it comes to, they don't have like a massive win this year, but putting them at number 20, I think. The Big 12 is going to be a lot of fun the rest of the way. Those 3 teams bunched together like that, it's going to be really something to watch.
I can't wait. Hey, thanks for watching another episode of the PFF College Football Show. Please make sure you guys subscribe to the channel.
Also, subscribe to PFF Plus at subscribe.pff.com for all of the same data and grades that we use in our show, plus fantasy tools, betting tools, and our mock draft simulator.